All right, we're back in the Ford Fusion. I haven't driven this thing in a while. Figured I'd get my out of shape ass over to go run a little bit. So that's what we're gonna do. Been driving the Ranger and the CRV a lot lately, so I don't know if I'm ready for the immense amount of power this thing offers. No, we're gonna be quiet now. Lovely overcast day. Ready to really not think about this drive much at all. Oh yeah, that electric surge. We're in EV only mode right now. That is something you don't really... I haven't really noticed it because I usually have the radio on when I'm driving this thing. You know, back when this thing was new back in 2014, you know, the interior was quote-unquote nice for a commodity vehicle, but it has some creaks and rattles now. But you know, for what this thing had back in 2014, it is really pretty neat, considering most new cars have this stuff, but there's still some cars that don't have it. And I mean, even recently, adaptive cruise control didn't come standard on a lot of the luxury vehicles. So it's neat that, you know, a vehicle 12 years old came with it as an option. It's not the most sophisticated hands-off, well, it's not hands-off at all, but it's not the most sophisticated safety suite ever. But you can't complain for a vehicle this old having adaptive cruise control and lane departure assistance and all that fun stuff. I'll talk more about it once we get on the interstate, but I do think that's a blessing and a curse, because it really does allow you to get lazy at some times. And I do appreciate it, especially when you're on long interstates that just go on and on and on. It really does help decrease the stress levels when you're just going in there. And, you know, especially, I'll use one example in particular. I-16 down in central Georgia. One of the most boring roads ever. Constant, you know, 70, 80 miles an hour, but you'll occasionally come up on a truck and it does slow down a bit. But I have mixed feelings about it, because at what point do you start to lose your own ability to focus on driving? If that makes sense. I know I'm just rambling, but... Oh, I'm an idiot. Alright. It is absolutely floored. Alright. We're not even at the speed limit yet. But you'll see, I have adaptive cruise control on. It'll, you know, do what adaptive cruise control does. But I do think this is where this vehicle shines if you're not really in the process of driving. You get good gas mileage. It's a little bit lower on the interstate. This is, this gets really good fuel economy in the city. But you just put on the adaptive cruise control, lane departure warning, and you really don't think. And that's what I think, where I think driving has changed in the past 10 years or so. It's become less of a process and more of a thing you just do and not think twice about. And I do miss that. When I was driving the Ranger, for example, you have to think about that. This, you really don't. You just set it and forget it pretty much. I mean, obviously I'm diligent when I'm driving. I like to look a couple cars in front of me just to see how the flow of traffic is going, because I don't like to rely on that adaptive cruise control. Because like I was kind of getting at, it does kind of take a little bit off your plate. And I don't mean to get too psychological, but it's kind of like the doom scrolling that goes on and all that stuff that's plagued my generation and folks younger than me. Like, we're not using all of our mental computerizing skills. We're just mindlessly going with the flow of traffic. We're looking for that mindless entertainment. And objectively, this car is way better than a Ford Ranger, than the old Honda products and the old Buick products and the old Mustangs and whatnot. But you just feel like you don't have much control over it. You're just going about, I don't know. Again, I'm growing so old at this point. I mean, I'm 31, good Lord. But the older and wiser I get, the more I miss the simpler times. Not really with most things, because we do have some pretty cool stuff nowadays. But as far as cars go, I do miss that mechanical feeling you get on some of these old cars. I mean, even the power steering with, I mean, I know this is the wrong car to be talking about this, because this was built by Ford at a time when they were trying to really just appease the government, for lack of better words, say, oh, we're making a car that gets good fuel economy. And it does do that, but it is an appliance. But even going back, you look at it before they did the hybridization, and I know this is just, it's solely based on the drivetrain. This drivetrain was built to be lifeless as all get out. But even the old Hondas that you could rev the crap out of, that just old CRVs, oh my gosh, here I am going again gushing about old Hondas. They felt so good, and you could just floor it and not think twice about it. But here, if I floor this one, I mean, we jumped up 5 miles an hour. It feels like a dying vacuum cleaner. And again, for 99% of the people, this car is better than an older Honda, an older Ford, but there's something special about those old shit boxes. And even, because I don't think it's a modern car issue, because my wife drives a newer CRV, and this car is boring when you jump into a newer CVT powered 1.5 liter Honda CRV, and you're like, wow, this thing actually has some guts to it. And I don't know, I don't think it's faster, but it does feel a little bit more, I don't want to say playful, because it's not a playful car. But maybe this is just a, well, I know this is an anemic car that was built by Ford to do what they wanted to do, to kiss the government's butt. Say, oh, we're making a car that gets that good gas mileage. And you know, I've not driven one of those that has the I know they had the EcoBoost stuff, but I don't touch EcoBoosts with a mile-long stick. First generation turbocharged engines, no thank you. That's one thing I do appreciate about Toyota and Honda. They don't roll out anything until they know it's going to work well. And I know when they come out new, they're like, well, this thing has a 3.5 liter V6, but all the other companies are, you know, they have 4 cylinders that make more power. And I get it. Car journalists are supposed to really focus on the here and now and not the longevity of a product. But I think there's something beautiful to be said about Honda and Toyota. Mazda can do that, but I don't know what they're trying to do right now with the inline sixes and all this stuff, trying to just reinvent the wheel. I think it was the Car Care Nut or someone that said, again, Toyota person, so take that with a grain of salt, but I mean, I like Toyotas, I like Hondas, but he's essentially said back 20 years ago, I think it was 20 years ago, Toyota came out with a V6 and an Avalon that produced the same amount of power as that new turbo inline 6 mild hybrid, and was as straightforward as an engine as you could build. And these new inline 6s by Mazda are so unproven, I don't know if I'd take a gamble on them with how they are right now. But again, I'm not a marketing manager at Mazda. They might have some of the biggest insights known to man. I mean, I do think, in theory, it does sound great. We got an inline 6. I love inline 6s. They are so smooth. They have character. They have something that a V6 doesn't have. And honestly, if it was a naturally aspirated inline 6, I think it would be good, but I'm going on a tangent here. The point of this story, I feel like some car companies are innovating solely for the sake of innovating. And I don't think it necessarily leads to a better product. Go this around back to this Ford Fusion. I think that the reason why this one has aged as well as it has, as boring as it might be, is because it used the most boring drivetrain you could imagine. There's a parallel hybrid system, something very similar to what you'd find in a Toyota of the same era. And I'm pretty sure this engine, this Atkinson cycle engine, is essentially an old Mazda engine. There's nothing glamorous about this. And as someone who likes to drive, that likes to feel a certain way when you drive, that likes to feel like I'm pushing a car to its limits, this isn't a good car for me. But for 99% of the people, there's nothing wrong with this vehicle. I think I said it in the other video, I've had this car for about 4 years now, and the only issue I've had is a critter chewed through an electrical wire that led to some evap failures. That is not an issue of this car. That's an issue of me being a redneck that lived up in North Hall, or North Georgia, for those who don't understand the geography of Gainesville, Georgia. But I didn't have a garage, so I left it outside, and some critter just gnawed through it. That ain't this car's fault. That could have happened to Toyota, that could have happened to Honda, and it happened to this car. And reading online, I know that these transmissions, these ECVTs, have issues. But other than that, no issues. And for a normal person, that's all you want in a car. A car that gives you no issues, that gives you 42 miles per gallon. And to go back to it, yeah, I want another car. But for this age, or this time, there's not a car that's going to be much better for what I need it to be. I need basic transportation that I can fill up for not much in today's world. You know, it still cost me, oh, good Lord, almost $50 to do this, but I can usually get 450 to 500 miles on a tank in this thing. And I know I've been under pressure to get a little bit larger of a car. And I can't do that right now. Like, mentally I can't. Let me rephrase that. In every other sense of the word I could. But mentally, it's this block in my head. And I don't know if I live life way too fiscally conservative. Well, I know I do. My wife will tell everyone that I'm one of the cheapest people she's ever met in my life. Or than her life. Thank God we're developing this further. But who knows? I don't know what I'm going to do with the vehicles. Do I want a new car? Absolutely. Do I think it would absolutely kill me from a psychological level just because of my mindset with money? Yeah, probably so. Will I probably end up one day just going out and getting a $3,000 Lexus again? That's probably the most likely situation, if I'm honest. Maybe an Acura. But there's something about cheap Japanese cars on the second hand, because I know these new Lexi ain't cheap. But they do a great job. And I think at the end of the day, that's when I'm happiest, is when I have a reliable piece of transportation that I can beat the crap out of and not think twice about. And this thing, I don't have to think twice about. But you just saw it when we got on the interstate. I can't beat the crap out of it. And that's one thing I love about vehicles. But, oh well. Y'all take it easy, guys.